All right. Welcome to our next episode of Earnest Medicine.
Wow.
And we have a special guest in, someone you've seen before, someone you've met on a number of occasions through other Earnest Medicine productions. A keto specialist, an intermittent fasting coach, a certified personal trainer,
Dear friend.
a dear friend, an all-out genius when it comes to fitness and nutrition, and somebody we want to pick the brain of to take a little bit of a deep dive and to see what the inner workings of his mind are like when he approaches these kind of things. So we're in the studio with none other than Carlos Fenwick.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll get started with our intro, and then we'll roll in here and chat with Carlos and get started. So, all right, we're back. We're here with Carlos Fenwick. We're going to turn it over to him and get a little bit of backstory so everyone watching sort of knows who he is and what he's about. So, we've had opportunities to go over this story in the past with Carlos, and we have a lot of great imagery from you growing up with that crazy hair. I'm like,
Yeah, that red afro, which is
I was
my
like,
favorite.
wait a second.
Yeah.
I know that kid.
Yeah.
But super happy to have you in here because I think there are a lot of topics that are extremely important for viewers to sort of dig into, things that they may not totally think about all the time, and putting it in front of them again may bring it to top of mind for them. So,
For sure.
yeah, just getting to know you a little bit first and foremost.
Yeah. Like you said, John, I've been on the several episodes many times. You've learned about me from growing up in Baltimore to living in Washington, D.C. What I did, I worked on Capitol Hill after I graduated from college for about 10 years, did healthcare policy, then left that back in 2010, started to dabble a little bit in the fitness industry. That's where I met Dr. Brown, actually at a small boutique personal training company over on 14th Street here in D.C. Nice. Then I went into sales at some big clubs and started, and I actually did not say this the last time. I started actually selling personal training packages as well as gym memberships.
Yeah.
And I was so good at it. And I'm not modest at all, right?
So it takes skill. I mean, it's
yeah.
like communication with people is vital in that role. So
Exactly. And over the years, my communication skills have just enhanced. You need to have really good communication skills to be on Capitol Hill, number one.
Oh, yeah.
So I had the basics there, and then I just enhanced those over the years. But it was more the way that I sold memberships to people was just, compassion for what their problem was that they were trying to solve. And then giving them the tools, a personal trainer or a nutritionist at the gym, giving them the tools that they needed to actually meet their fitness goals. And I actually cared about these people. I followed up with them, made sure that their fitness goals were being achieved and all. So it's something I really liked. And I had personal training clients on the side, Dr. Brown, and then some other clients. And I said, why can't I just do this myself? Why can't I just create my own personal training company?
Yep.
So I did that. And I had some nutrition knowledge, right? The basics. But I actually, back in 2014, I started to get into this whole idea of probiotics, right? And there's this woman named Donna Gates she's all about fermented vegetables and really helping to give health to the gut. So that's where I started. And then I started looking at all these alternative dietary forms, and I was just fascinated with them. But then around 2017, I think it was, I started to look at keto and fasting.
I remember. I remember very succinctly that you had started, mentioning it.
Yeah.
And and it was, I've seen you, we've known each other for more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I've seen the evolution, right?
Right.
And what I saw in you at that time was, you were just curious. You were just like, oh, wow, this is that and there and this. And that's always been something that's, refreshing to see from you, because that draws me in.
Right.
Like if you have a curiosity about it, then I'm going to listen, because, I value what you see and experience and learn for yourself, because, we see the product of
That's
that,
right. Exactly.
Okay. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that too.
Yeah, totally.
And, I come from the background of science and, medicine and those sorts of things. And so what you're telling, I was like, he's onto something. And it took me a long time to take that on in myself, but it was fascinating to see you go through that.
Yeah, and it was so cool because when I looked at like keto and intermittent fasting, I like most people out there, they actually, when I asked them, do you know what keto means? And they go, yeah, I know what it means. And I go, well, what does it mean? And they go, it's like paleo. And that that's right. And I thought it was like paleo too. But then you start to look at it, and you start to look at the terms and the meanings of words in the whole, in the whole subject. And as I did that, I did a course that was just mind blowing. It was pretty well laid out. It gave me a gradual increase in knowledge that I needed on each subject. It was very like it did it on what's called gradients, right? It gave you the basics, like what's a carbohydrate, what's insulin. It would give you these definitions, and then it would just build and build and build, and then you had this beautiful understanding of keto and intermittent fasting. And I had been doing it on my own before I took the course. And there's things that I couldn't get right about it. And then I took that course and I completely got it.
Yeah.
And I actually really implemented it in 2020, March 2020 during the pandemic. Everyone had their goals, right? I'm going to watch the rest of Ozark. I'm going to have, what was it? I'm going to do happy hour with my friends like every Friday. And then those goals got old, right? So, and I was one of the people who did Ozark. I watched all the seasons, and it was amazing.
Season 4, part 2.
I know, right?
I watched it.
But what I did, but this was a game that I was playing with myself to be able to do keto and intermittent fasting, and then I also took my mom along with the on the trip as well.
Yes,
and I've talked about this. She lost like 70 pounds and like 10% body fat.
Incredible.
So it was I mastered it, and then I was like, okay, so, and I did it with my mom, and then I started doing it with other clients. I did it with you actually before before the pandemic. It completely got you to where you needed to be, and it was amazing. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I wanted to dig in on here just a little bit is that when it comes to things like medicine, right? When it comes to things like fitness, nutrition, these kind of things, these are problems that some people have. You could call them that you never really solve. You're always working toward a better solution, right? And regardless of what patient you're seeing or what client you're working with, and this is very much the same in a video production atmosphere, you always have a new scene that you have to figure out. It's like a puzzle each and every time. And that, I think, contributes so much to the continued curiosity and the continued interest in the field, because it's never really done. You're never really finished. You're always like solving that puzzle. And if you're hungry for that, then I think it motivates you to push it forward. What's your relationship with that curiosity? I mean, like, what is the motivation behind it? Is that always there for you, you think?
Oh, it's always there. I'm always, Dr. Brown knows this about me, I'm always wanting to be bigger, better, the best. It's always, that person's.
You're just a little competitive.
Just a little. I am the Monopoly champion, by the way, in my family.
Cue axe throwing. Cue axe throwing video.
Put the axe throwing in there. No, and that was we just recently all did axe throwing, which was amazing for Dr. Brown's birthday.
I had a little abdominal.
Yeah, the little. But we all caught on very quickly. Yeah. But yeah, I have a little bit of a competitive edge to me, but there's a curiosity too there with knowledge and understanding things that I've always had. So and even though I've mastered keto and intermittent fasting, as you know, I did fasting like for 24 hours one time, and then I was like, oh, that's great. Okay, let me do it for 36.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. Let me do it for 48, and then let me do it for 72, and then let me go running 8 miles, and let me.
That was recently though that you did your
And,
3. Yeah.
You know, people may listen to that and be like, yeah, I can't do that.
Right.
You know, that's insane.
Yeah.
Or that's like, I can't, I'll crash, you know, and those sorts of things. And this is where it's not meant to be like, you know, saying, oh, I can do this and you can't do that.
No.
Right.
It's just, it's self-discovery. It's curiosity. Your approach to
Exactly.
it is not like, oh, I'm a manly man and I do it like this. No,
Well, I am a
yours,
manly
yeah,
man,
yes,
yeah.
yes. But that's not the core of it, because what really is that curiosity. And this is an important point, because you have a curiosity about that as a personal trainer, as a health and wellness expert. And that what makes you unique.
Yeah.
And that is the same for you. You have I've seen you in your environment, in your zone, and I see you struggle with it too.
Yeah,
But at the same time, you know, there's always a new opportunity to learn something, a curiosity about this and
Right.
and it's very much about medicine. You know, there isn't a formula for what you do. I mean, if it is, it's not.
Yeah, it can become very redundant, very repetitive.
Exactly.
Burnout happens shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
same
that-
in your discipline,
yeah.
and then same in mine.
That's right.
And I think that's one of the key traits is for anyone is if you just have curiosity, it propels you
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
to achieve things that you. Because if you don't have that curiosity, well, what's the point? You know?
Exactly. It's what I call a continuous create. You're continuously creating, because that is something people burn out, they get bored. It's because they don't go for the next thing. And that's a driving force for me. It's like, okay, we've mastered this. Great. What's the next level? Okay, good. We're in this condition.
Yeah.
We can go to this condition. There's an infinity of possibilities.
Right. Yeah.
And that's my mindset and point of view with everything. So,
Because even for myself, when we're working together,
Yeah.
there has been areas where we've gotten to a point where we've done great,
Right.
but there's a plateau.
This
Right.
is exact. I was just
Yep.
going to bring this up because
Yeah.
we talked about it earlier, and it's so common. You hear about this in training all the time. You hit that plateau, and now what? It's like, how do you get to that next step?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's that? I mean, what's that like?
Yeah, well, this is interesting. Plateaus really a lot of time happen with people who are trying to lose weight or they're trying to lose body fat, right? They hit a certain level of weight. They've accomplished, like, say they lose 15 pounds and then they can't go anymore. Well, there's actually a science behind why that is. They've lost 15 pounds of water weight and probably just a tad bit of fat, and then some muscle as well. But they're not really in fat burning mode. And that's where ketosis comes in. Ketosis is your body burning fat for fuel.
Yeah.
So the only way it can do that is if you've eliminated the sugar from your diet.
That's hard.
It's completely, it's one of the most difficult things.
Yeah.
As-
I think
yeah.
for myself, the hardest part was I don't really have a sweet tooth, but the hardest, for cutting out certain carbs, sugars, was fairly straightforward.
Sure. Right.
But the bread and the rice,
That's right.
That was like, what? That's,
Yeah.
Well, it's in everything.
Yeah.
Sugar is
Oh,
in
yeah.
everything.
It's in everything. I challenge our viewers when they go to the grocery store,
Just look,
tomorrow,
yeah,
just
yeah.
look
Check
at
your label.
everything. It
Yeah.
has sugar in it, and it's just an abundance of sugar. And as a physician, you know that if the body is continuously doused with sugar, say for 30, 40 years, it's going to have an issue.
Yeah. And as a physician, there are certain things about it that's, fascinating to me, because just as we consume sugars, processed foods, and those sorts of things, we have to think about it also on a level deeper than this, which is that, we can consume these things and physiologically we may put on weight and those sorts of things. But we also have to consider how this impacts us in a much more, fundamental way. And the reason I say this is because it ties into even our genetics. You know, we can, as we come to understand genomics, the book of our DNA more, it's more profound. When we have a population that is addicted to sugars, we don't even think about obesity, but there are significant genetic effects over periods of time
100%.
that are ingrained. And I give an example for this. An example is, researchers are always curious about, how does genetics predispose or preclude to some conditions?
Sure.
One study did this with mice, took mice and subjected them to very harsh environments where they actually made the mouse depressed.
Wow.
And then they bred the mouse, or mice are able to reproduce at a rate that they were able to generate 6 generations of mice that then they basically engineered depressed mice.
Wow.
So the environment, they gave them, an environment which made their genetics change, which we call epigenetics. But here's the fascinating part. The fascinating part is, okay, you take that mice that you've been subjecting to this, that is now depressed, and you give it some sunlight. You give it some, go out in the field and play around a little bit. 6 generations later, normal mouse.
Wow.
No longer depressed.
Wow. Did it really take that long, though? I mean, it took that long to devolve into that state. Can it take, or can you accelerate past that same timeline to get back to normal?
That's the curiosity about it. So I mean, we don't generate as fast as mice do, but it begs the larger question. With the advent of processed foods and sugars, these sorts of things, it goes beyond even just obesity. We're genetically altering, an entire generation of people.
Exactly.
And
that's scary too, to think about the long-lasting effects of that and how that just permeates through every facet of human existence.
It does. Yeah. And so one of my big duties this time around is to ensure that there's so much education out there and that people actually understand what health is and understand what good eating is. So that they can then pass it on to future generations. Because right now we have generations that are on their phones, eating candy or anything that has sugar in it, and constantly in anxiety. And the sugar, you can contribute that a lot to sugar. That's what's going on. The kids just have so much sugar that's being thrown at them. So that is one of my big duties this time.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Well, there are some major players when it comes to that distribution, essentially, of processed foods. Like there are winners and then there are losers in this battle. The loser being the general or average American. That's right. And the winner being some of the lawmakers and lobbyists who have that direct input and saying like, no, the sugar lobby is here. It's here to stay. It's like, how do we get people to recognize that is something that we can change through either voting or through our actions in order to get these people sort of out?
Well, I think a lot to say, but I think it really begins with the consumer. I mean, they are selling sugar.
Yeah, hit them where it hurts, right?
So it's a question, and part of it is it even goes into other stories about pharmaceutical industry and how they said, oh, this is a miracle, and it turns out it's not. But I would challenge consumers really. That's where because it follows the money,
right?
If people continue to take the poison pill that the sugar lobby gives them, then guess what? You have nothing
helping them out.
Yeah, and the economic impact of it is huge, and we know this. This is well established. So, but yeah.
I think one of the most effective ways is to go directly to the consumer, and it's got to be an education for the consumer. I was just on a consult this morning with a gentleman who wants to lose belly fat, right? And I get this a lot. I told you this. I get this a lot when I ask people, how's your diet? what are you eating? Well, I eat pretty healthy. That's what I hear first thing. And I go, okay, so what do you eat? And they go, well, I eat salad. They start off with all the good things. Right? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, good. I write down salad and check it. And then they go, and then, and then I have some fruit and then, and meat and fish. And then I go, okay, great. Bread? Yeah, occasionally. Yeah. Like probably twice a week or something. Okay, good. Do you have, what kind of fruit do you have? Sweet fruit, right? Pineapples and mangoes and all that good stuff, right? Rice? Yeah, I do. Potatoes? Yeah. And then I have healthy grains too, right? So all that stuff, it's just, the consumer just doesn't know that these are the things that are actually contributing to the belly fat that they have, or the love handles, or the fat that they have that they don't want it on their body. They just don't know. And it's like with a carbohydrate, when it breaks down in the body, glucose, which is sugar, is extracted. It's a very simple concept that I share with these people, and they go, really? Oh. And they, instantly they got it. Yeah. And then you just keep giving them more data and more data and more data. It's not necessary. We don't have to attack the sugar lobby. No. Not at all.
Yeah.
All you have to do is educate the consumer.
One person at a time, right?
Because the consumer will drive what is wanted and needed.
Right.
And this is interesting too, that I found, is that now keto is a very big thing, right? It's a trendy. Oh yeah. It's trending a lot, right?
And some of these groups I've joined on Facebook, right? 100,000, a couple in the millions. Yeah. A lot of people.
It's actually, I mean, I fully support it. It's great to see that.
It's amazing. But what happens is those same sugar lobbyists or the sugar industry gets into the keto world. Yeah. And they start to put in terms that people don't understand, like dextrose or sucralose.
What was the stuff in the gum that
mannitose?
Yeah, maltodextrin, right? Okay. Or dextrose or sucralose. Sucralose is Splenda. Yeah. I actually read the other day, or I saw it on online. They did this study on monkeys. They fed them a whole bunch of sucralose, Splenda, and they all died.
Oh shit!
Yeah, all the monkeys didn't die. I'm being a little dramatic, but the ones that did not die from it, most of them died. The ones that did not die, they just killed them off because they were so damaged from the chemicals that's being put in this stuff. So it's really big to have consumers aware of what is going into their food, and I think when they're educated.
Yeah, I mean, and for the purposes of industry, sugar industry and others, they are trying to support their business,
and I guess they're employing people,
so they'll change from raw sugar into some other product, which they can market differently. Fructose was a great example of that in drinks, so that was then discovered as a leading cause. Yep. So it's one of those things. Always being aware of what you're putting in your body, I think, is extremely important.
Yeah.
For keto, for myself, the issue was understanding some parts of it, but how do I get like fats? That was my biggest struggle. Yeah. I still think I struggle with it in the sense that I simply just don't get enough fats.
Yeah.
And so, and I think some people will go into keto and that's the one thing that's missing. And that's where you can kind of get into some trouble.
Yeah.
But the thing that also related to this is, when I first met you, my father had diabetes, and I was 40, and I felt sick all the time. Right. It was nonstop.
Yeah.
And I was like, rather than waiting until I had a heart attack, I was like, okay, I have to change something. I feel better now at 54 than I did in my 30s, certainly when I was in medical school, right? Yeah, right. And I'm actually close to back to the weight before medical school.
Wow.
And it was really, I would say, significantly between the training that we do, but the coaching you have given me on keto and intermittent fasting has really set the path for me. And I know that, and it's not like I just put it into what I do on a daily basis.
Right.
I think for those who are trying to get into this initially, there's going to be a lot of challenges.
Of course. Yeah.
And I accept the challenges.
Yeah.
but keep moving and keep being curious, keeping, exploring these groups that are on social.
Right.
Eventually it'll work for you.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah. I was going to say really quick, just a question. Did you feel like you were trapped whenever you were in that state of your
I felt
existence?
what I had to, the effort I had to put into it was almost insurmountable. It was kind of like almost fatalistic. It was like, well, this is just the way it's going to be. My dad was diabetic, and I'm going to be diabetic, and this weight's not going to come off because I'm a physician and I stress out all the time, don't get enough sleep.
Right.
It was just a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And there was no getting off of it. I didn't, even as a physician, I was like, well, maybe I have to start taking medication.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the end of it. I actually was told that I should take a medication for diabetes. I was pre-diabetic, and I was told that I really should start this medication to make sure that I don't to try to extend the period of time before, because I was going to be diabetic.
Right. Right.
That's unfortunate. And then that's a large part of what healthcare is. Healthcare, the business is, here's a pill.
Right.
Not any of the other stuff.
It's fascinating because two things. Number one, I want to go back to a point where we're talking about that it can be hard for people to make this transition. And the analogy or the example that I always give clients who are starting off with me or any consults that I do is I ask them how old they are. And most of them are like in their late 30s, 40s, right? So I'm 44. Yeah, I know, right?
You look freaking great.
It's keto, intermittent fasting, exercise, sleep, all those things, right?
Yeah.
So for about 40-something years, the train was going this direction, the sugar train.
Yeah.
And then I decided around age 40, 42, to turn that train around, like completely with nutrition. And a person's body is going to be like, oh, no, we're not.
Yeah.
What do you think you're doing?
Yeah, sorry.
It's like, no, you see that candy bar over there? We're going to eat that right now. And people, I have a client cannot control what the body wants. And it's so fascinating. But there are tools that, this is what I learned from my training, on my certification for keto and intermittent fasting. There are tools that can help that transition easier, right? So it's actually, and just I'll give the viewers this. It's actually vitamin B1, which is like nutritional yeast. You can get that.
Is it like an energy complex? Or is that B12? Am I thinking
That's
of this?
B12, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you can get B1 from nutritional yeast.
Okay.
And then electrolytes.
Okay.
And that helps the transition because there's something that turns on called keto flu. And essentially, keto flu are just the symptoms that are happening because you're taking your body from burning sugar to going to fat.
Right.
It's like it's fighting.
Yeah.
So it's going to turn on all these symptoms, and that stuff helps to ease those symptoms from happening. So
like the fogginess I had around
right,
12 o'clock.
fog,
I was like, Carlos, I'm on this and I'm getting kind of foggy. I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
You're like, well, you need to do this. And I was like,
That was like a brain fog or a
It
whole
really
like
was.
it was
It really
a
was just-
physical fatigue or
no, the brain was I was like, I was literally just, and I was,
Really?
Your body's is running off of sugar all these years, and you're just basically taking the plug and unplugging. The body's like,
what's going on?
What's going on? And with electrolytes, this is another thing, because I think people will go out and get electrolytes. You have to look at the ingredients because they're putting maltodextrin, dextrose, and sucralose in your
Well,
electrolytes.
electrolytes, the first name that comes to mind, and good job for marketing it.
Yeah.
Like Gatorade,
Right.
Powerade,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
That's not an electrolyte.
Oh, a lot of sugar in that.
Yeah.
a lot.
So, But then I was going to also say something else about, I actually forgot what I was going to say about that thing, but that's okay.
Come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
I would say even for myself with, with the pandemic, I certainly was under a lot of stress. Sleep was bad. Really, comfort food, to be honest.
Right.
And then not working out. That combination, I gained about 25, 30 pounds. And, I started feeling that sickness come back again.
Right.
And so it was like, okay, I got to do something about this. But the key thing, getting back in training with you, I knew that if I didn't do the nutrition part first, and actually for several months, that it was going to be a mess. And so what I knew this from previously when we had been working together, that if I didn't focus on the keto and the intermittent fasting, then it was going to cause a lot of stress to my body.
Yeah.
So I had to, and honestly, we didn't train. You were just like, just do the keto,
Exactly.
just do the intermittent
That's what I said.
fasting.
Yep.
And when you're ready,
Yeah.
we'll do and that was perfect.
Exactly.
Because just otherwise, you can see this where the client may be beating themselves up.
Yeah.
And just, gives up. you know.
The body is already stressed, right? So a lot of clients that come to me, their bodies are already immensely stressed out.
Yeah.
So the last thing you want to do is stress it out even more. Exercise is a form of stress to the body.
Yep.
So if you're doing, and people, their go-to a lot of times is, I'm going to jump into a boot camp class and I'm just going to work out 4 or 5 times, a week, and then I'm going to lose this weight. And they're losing water weight. They're losing muscle mass because the body is burning,
Tearing it down, right?
It's tearing it down because if we go
Catabolic,
catabolic, because protein, you look at it, breaks it up, amino acids and glucose.
Yeah.
And that's what the body wants,
Right.
the glucose. It's extracting the glucose.
Yeah.
So, and people will lose weight and they're like, look, I lost 15 pounds. And it's like, but what's your body fat percentage?
Yeah.
And lots of people don't know that.
Yeah. I would say, even for myself, like before the pandemic, I was doing Orange Theory like almost every day.
Yeah.
And I was doing Pilates definitely every day. And then you 3 times a week. And I was plateau the whole time. And really the key difference was there was no keto. And there was no intermittent fasting.
Right.
And that's what really has transitioned. So now I've certainly gone below and am getting closer to the target.
Yeah. And just to say something about that, one thing that I do with my clients is I stay away from evaluating for them. I let them see what they're getting into, and then I let them have the realization for themselves. And you realized it. And I love that moment when you realized it, because you said, I think I've been doing too much. No. And I said, hold on one second.
He keeps notes with every session.
Yeah, let me write that one down.
Date, time,
Yeah.
earnest realization.
I mean,
moment.
and it's, it is to be humble,
Yeah.
It is to accept that, it's easy to lie to oneself, that, everything's fine.
Yeah.
I'm guilty every now and then.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of that. And then we have a realization, and that's what life is about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do remember I was going to say now that people who end up in that frame of mind, oh, this is all that there is. This is, I'm just going to be like this. That's why I love my job so much, because I go in and I give them truth. And you can tell when someone's gotten it, or you can tell when they've understood that you've given them a truth, because they go, or they go, oh.
I have
the aha
right?
moments.
And then
Exact same
aha
thing.
moments, they're
Yes.
beautiful
Yeah.
because you realize that you took that false data that they had sticking there and you just eviscerated
Yeah,
it.
It's
and
the
that's
same thing.
motivating for you too, right?
Oh, yeah, completely. Because,
It's like the goal.
Yeah. Even as
Exactly.
a physician, I do a lot in terms of explaining in detail,
Right.
What's going on, what's the diagnosis, but what's the root of it, because that's the diagnosis, but how did you get here?
That's right.
And then how are we going to get out of it?
Yeah.
And you have to do that by, you're on a journey.
Yeah.
Right. You're not just a personal trainer. You're a guide. Right.
Yeah.
And that's an important part, just as I am as a physician. In the way that I practice is to really help, clients through this every step of the way, and you can't, not every client is, going to listen or
No, they're not.
And that's okay.
It's okay. And, and to speak on that, I had a couple clients, and I don't take a loss on it. A couple clients left. They decided that they couldn't do it. They didn't want to do it. But what's beautiful is that I took responsibility for the whole thing in terms of there's something that I did not, maybe they didn't understand something. Maybe they didn't get something. So it actually helps to improve my program even more, because now I've created a keyword list for my program to give to new clients when they start, and defining terms for them, because actually, when people don't understand a word, they will completely, they'll be like, I'm not going to do this. I don't know what this is. Because I get it all the time with people. It's like, have you ever tried keto? Yeah, I tried keto. I'm not going to do it. But what did you do? Well, I just had potatoes, and I had, and you're like,
Who the hell? Who the hell got you out of this?
You don't know what keto is, and it's okay because I'm here to explain to you what it is. And
it does require clients to have an open mind,
sure.
It's not easy, and I accept that when somebody has come to me for help, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I don't take that personally. I just
it's not.
and if I am not there to tell patients what to do. When they're ready, they're ready.
Exactly.
And if they're not, then eventually either they will or they won't, and that's okay too.
Well, you talked about sharing is caring, right? And how whenever somebody wants to go on a journey with you, they have to be ready to sort of share information that's necessary for you to formulate a plan for them.
Yeah.
And I think without that, that's that lack of relationship that might stunt the progress that they want to see. So when it comes to that kind of scenario, how do you educate people on the fact that, like, look, the more receptive you are to this, the more you're willing to share with me about where you are now and where you want to be, the better all of this is going to go over.
That's beautiful, because that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I ask everyone before they join as a client, are you willing to change your lifestyle? And I've had some people say no, and that's not my client.
Yeah,
because you have to have
a
a willingness to change, or there's going to be just they're not going to move.
Yeah, right.
So I take on people who are willing, even if they have the slightest inclination of a willingness. That's willingness. So, and it's my responsibility to guide them every step to debug or to troubleshoot anything that gets in the way. Tons of times I get, because I have my clients weigh in every week, weigh in and look at their body fat percentage. They love that, right,
Yeah.
Dr. Brown?
Yes.
You can see the
little scale, and when I
bar
get on
chart.
it,
Yeah, you
sends
see
them
the
the
little
results.
chart.
the line
immediately.
graph.
Yeah.
But it's such and I did it because it makes people confronted every week.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Accountability.
Accountability. I hold people accountable, but they are also, I'm training them to hold themselves accountable.
Right.
Because one day they may not be training with me anymore, right? So they need to actually be able to, as they drill, do it every time, say they do it for 2 years, and they stop training with me, they're going to get on this guy. I have a client who checks in with me all the time.
Really?
Because I see her weight still. And I see it fluctuating, and she's keeping herself accountable, because that's the beauty of my program too. Because you can take it and then go and live your life, without me.
Right.
I mean, that may be a sad thing for you, but the things happen. Yeah.
Part of it is also understanding somebody's belief system.
Yeah.
How do they think about their health, and the other part of it is, where you are now, and there's a sense of, I'm okay, right?
Yeah.
But to see yourself in who the future self is,
That's right. Yeah.
and to understand that what you do now makes all the difference in the world. Very often, I have clients who are like in their 60s who are asking for help with complex medical issues, and I wish I saw you when you were 40 at least,
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's an investment.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if we were to, get right down to it, there are so many aspects of how the best investment is in, your health.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I think people would agree with that, but I think it's the intangibles of it,
Yeah. And one of my favorite lines to say to people, because it really impinges on them, is you either pay for it now or you pay for it later. Right now, it may seem expensive.
Yeah.
But later, it's going to be 10 times.
Yeah, that's the line I think I brought up in our last live stream. It was just like, if you don't do it willingly now, your body will force you to do it later.
And you'll be forced, and it will be a forced thing for you.
Yeah.
No choice.
Yeah, you won't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a little bit of a segue, but one of the things, all of us sitting here kind of operate independently in some regards, right? But we still have other individuals or entities that we rely on to perform well. And so I wanted to open that up to you and talk about, Ernest, with the different labs that you work with, the different organizations around the city that help sometimes make your job miserable in some regards, but other times are vital in getting people the care they need.
Yes.
Same for Carlos, right? There are different entities that you rely on, or different, maybe that's an application or a resource or whatever that looks like, to help you further people's goals, essentially. Yeah. So I was curious what those look like for you, essentially.
I mean, right now I use a program that keeps track of all of my clients' workouts,
Right.
As well as our sessions. And then I have another program that I use to that deals with all my prospects and keeps all their information in a database. I'm heavily reliant because I don't have a gym. My whole model is to go to people's homes and train them, or to train them virtually.
Yes.
I'm heavily dependent upon apartment complexes being open.
Yeah.
And now that we're at the edge of the COVID saga,
Yeah. Little uptick.
a lot of apartment complexes in the DC area are opening up. So one of my big things that I'm doing right now is going out, reaching out to them, and offering my services to their residents, because a lot of their residents were not exercising probably for a good 2 years.
Yeah.
And they've got some goals, fitness goals, health goals that they want to accomplish. But it's so funny. I just thought of when I was sitting back on Capitol Hill and we were doing healthcare reform, and one of the big things was corporate wellness programs, right? And how do you enhance those, or how do you promote those even more? I think this time frame right now is one of the best times to promote corporate wellness programs, because you've got employees kind of, you got to drag them back in, I've talked to a number of people and then, I mean, companies lost money. So now more than ever, you need production to be up. So with healthcare, preventative medicine, like personal training and nutrition coaching, this is a big opportunity for my industry to go right in there and to promote the right way to get someone healthy in terms of their nutrition and training. I think it's a big opportunity for them, because a lot of their employees are looking for more energy. They're looking for better sleep, better physical appearance, all those things and all those things enhance their productivity. That is the purpose of a corporate wellness program, to promote more activity,
Keeps
more
costs
production.
down on their end too, right? Fewer sick employees, fewer health issues for their workers.
And I think one of the silver linings for the pandemic is the whole world went on pause. Right. And now it's a long pause. Right? Not just a snow day.
No, it wasn't. No,
it's a hibernation, snowpocalypse.
And part of that pause is to reflect, and think about, is there a way to do this differently, rather than being in this carousel that's going around faster and faster. Is there opportunity? And there is.
It's a huge opportunity for us in the United States to change, not go back to what was before. Because if you look at the correlation, the chronic diseases were going up with the amount of people that were consuming bad foods, et cetera. All that stuff was going up. We have an opportunity now to change that, and to make it go right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's, I think, a challenge in this as well, because, every time, if you're in an apartment complex, right, and you go down to the front desk area, you see how many things are delivered on a daily basis. And that's natural for people who are not able to go out or have work schedules that are keeping them at home. They need certain things to come to them. That's just a matter of fact, essentially. But in some ways, it it has sort of implanted in my head every time I walk past there and I see them, like, oh my God, that's a large pile of Amazon packages. You know, it's like there's this sense of immediate gratification. And this has been an evolution in our society over the last 2 decades with the advent of the internet and the ability for all these companies to ship things to you immediately. Like you can get anything you need in a couple hours.
You can.
Or a couple days. And in some ways, I think it's cemented this idea in people's heads that it's something they can get right now. And when it comes to your health, when it comes to your nutrition, it's not really a right now thing. For some people, they might be able to flip that switch and make that decision in their head that I'm going to change this right now. But I think in many ways, people who are now in this mindset of like, oh, I can just see this change or see this product in my hands in the next few hours, you're not going to necessarily get that with your health. Like, you got to put in some time and some effort.
100%.
So how do you counteract that sort of evolution in the American mindset somewhat, but the global mindset, I would say, overall?
Well, it's all about results.
Yes.
It's all about the results.
Yeah.
I had someone tell me the other day, I use a waist trainer, and I actually was like, wait, is she talking about a thing that you put around your waist and then that just, you don't do anything? I think that's a waist trainer, right? And then she said, yeah, I've been using it for like a year. And I said, great. How much weight have you lost? 10, 15? Okay, how much more do you want to lose? 30 pounds? Okay, so is the waist trainer going to do that for you? I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you. Right. That's one, the tangible for people who want something quick or want something right then and there. You got to have the result. You have to have the statistics. You have to see if the weight is going down, if the body fat is going down, if the sleep is getting better, if you're getting stronger. Those are the metrics. Those are the things that measure progress. I don't think there's a quick fix to it because, again, if you're running the train in this direction for 30, 40 years, you're not going to get that in a week.
Right.
You're not going to get the switch around in a week. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you take a magic pill that's in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Well, Big Pharma's listening.
They're working on
Where's
it.
that at?
Yeah. The Wonderland pill brought to you by Pharma.
Big Pharma. Awesome.
Excellent.
Well, I think we've covered a wide range of topics, but there's so much more to talk about. And I think digging into some anecdotal sort of stuff, and I think that's where Earnest Medicine, the strength in some of those stories is really in the people that you interact with, right? The practitioners, the patients, and that's the same for Carlos with the clients. I'm sure you've had some incredible transformational stories that you've witnessed over the time that you've done what you've done.
Yeah.
And, maybe those are something we can dig into.
Yeah, and I sometimes sit back and I'm like, what Carlos does for patients is what more than what healthcare does. Honestly, the MDs and
for
all
real.
these other things. It's just it is shocking to see the profit that healthcare makes, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that's just, and I understand, this is business and all that. But what I would really want is, for what we're talking about is to invite viewers to actually be able to participate and bring, their stories and questions or even comments to anything that we've discussed here.
Absolutely.
So that we can continue discovery and curiosity about the topics, that are relevant.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I would love to hear how people are planning to, use the opportunity of the pandemic and then the transition or transitions in their life coming out of it. We're all coming out of the shadows together collectively.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I just wanted to say something about what you said about medical doctors and whatnot. That's not what it was supposed to be. You know this in the beginning. That's not what they were. They were supposed to be what I'm doing.
Yes. I mean, Hippocrates taught medicine.
That's right.
For the sole purpose, and it was a service.
Yeah.
That was to ensure the health and vitality of their countrymen, so that their country would have power.
That's right.
A sick population is a weak country.
Yeah, you got it. Wow.
that's where we are.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, and it's a little bit scary too. You're like, come on.
It is.
Yeah. But there are people out there that get it, because I have this new client who's actually from overseas, and I started training him. His sleep has never been good until I started doing my nutrition program with him and my exercise. A light turned on in his mind, and he wants to do a program with his employees.
Yes.
Because he sees that it's going to increase their energy,
Right.
and
Productivity.
vitality. He got it.
Yes.
There's tons of people out there. There's many more like him out there that see the benefit, and they go, yeah, this is real healthcare.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
If you plant the seeds,
That's right.
and spread it far and wide.
Got it.
And that, in large part, that's what we're trying to have these conversations.
That's right.
Because what else are you going to be fed? You're going to be fed, formulaic media, and
Right.
Yeah.
everything is spoon fed, and but it's challenging.
And I think it's all about finding those leaders, those people
Yeah.
who are like, I get it, and I want to spread the message.
That's right.
Because there's a difference between that and wanting to change yourself. That's great, but then to be able to take that change and pass it on, pay it forward.
That's right.
That's where it's at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. And
Thank you.
Thank you,
we'll certainly
Carlos.
have more opportunities.
I'll be back.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Hey, maybe there's an opportunity for somebody who you've trained to bring them in
I would love
virtually
to do
or
that.
even into the studio
Yeah.
too, and just be like, have that conversation with them as well.
100%.
That
Let's
would be
do
awesome.
it.
All
Yeah.
right.
Good.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back again next time with another episode of Earnest Medicine. See ya.
See you later.
See ya.
And if you happen to find any of this interesting, or more importantly, if you want to collaborate, check out the link below so that you can send us your comments, any stories you may have, anything. We're happy to entertain it. And this is really about us going on a journey together.